I appreciate all of you all. There's one thing that's, I mean, it speaks volumes already, is that on a Saturday night, you're willing to come out to an event, because wouldn't you agree there's a lot of entertainment venues out there. Is it upside down? Oh no, it'll clear up here in a second. Thank you. I don't know why I'm standing on the stage. I'm 6'5", so you couldn't tell. They sandwiched me between some of the most passionate, powerful, intelligent women in the city, and then there's me. Sorry. So, but if you can't tell, we're almost the same height, so we kind of blend in when we're in the crowd. So I wanted to talk about, first of all, how did I come into this place? Because a lot of people, when they think about getting into entrepreneurship, they decide on a business that they want to get started, or their family business that they, after they leave school, they get involved in. I was kind of forced into entrepreneurship. So what had happened was I served, as you know, for those of you who don't know, 11 years in the U.S. Army. I absolutely loved it. But I decided to get out because, believe it or not, you don't get to choose when you take your vacations in the Army. All right? And none of the places around the world that I was sent were anywhere that I actually wanted to go. So in my 11 years, my first year was in Korea, which is an absolutely incredible place. And then I spent 2.5 years in Bosnia. So for those of you who are not familiar with Bosnia, it wasn't that attractive of a vacation spot back in the 90s. So I knew I wanted to get out, but I thought because of my career that I was going to have a 6-figure position lined up anywhere. I had 11 years in the Army, I speak 2 other languages. I thought I was going to get a 6-figure job. All I just needed to do was apply, all here and there and everywhere. And what I found was nobody was going to hire me. I don't know for what reason, but there was one person that called me back, and I at the time was living in Monterey, California. Any of you been to Monterey? No Monterey area? Okay. Handful of you. Pebble Beach, Carmel, Clint Eastwood. All right. So I had a call back from the British pub in downtown Monterey that said that they wanted me to check IDs at the door for $11 an hour. So that was the job that I got a call back on. And not that there was any problem with that, but I thought that my resume was more valuable than the $11 an hour for that position. So I decided to follow a childhood dream of mine. I started a video production company, and I, at the same time, resurrected a defunct jazz record label. So if there's one thing this whole talk is, I want to let you know, take this home, write it down, don't forget it. Do not resurrect a jazz record label. That's it. That's the end of my talk. Thank you all. I appreciate it. Now, I want to get... but one of the things... So I went in and started my own business, but I went through, honestly, every single pitfall that a business owner could go through. And I'm going to go through those in a second. But when I got started with it, I was very naive because I was very passionate about doing video production. I knew... Because I went to the TED Talks, used to be in Monterey, California. So I would go, I worked for TED in Monterey. So I would attend all of the TED conferences. So I got to see technology long before it was available out to the consumers. And I knew wholeheartedly that the future of entertainment was going to be digital downloads, kind of YouTube, 15 to 20 minute episodes without commercials. Like I wholeheartedly knew that to be true. But what had happened was about 1.5 years into my business, me and my partners, because of that record label, we were sued for $2 million. And I didn't have it on me. So I lost everything. And the next day, within 48 hours, they took everything away from me. And Monday morning, I had to sell my truck to make rent. Here I am in a suit and tie, walking around Monterey, California to go to meetings for 6 months before I had a car. And I would always walk by, we had a pizza place, so I would walk into the pizza place and take Parmesan cheese packets and eat those because I couldn't afford lunch. And it's funny now, it wasn't funny then. To still show up at meetings with a smile on your face, and you know what it's like to walk an hour and a half to a meeting and then get no-showed? That's hard. So, I'm going to get into, first of all, everything I'm going to talk about, none of it's legal advice. So I have to throw this disclaimer up so I don't get sued for practicing law without a license. There's also no financial advice as well, so I would recommend you, where'd our financial advisor go? He was just here. He ran out before the financial advice. So, connect with your financial advisor on any of that, and no one should act or refrain from acting on the basis of the information without first seeking legal advice and counsel. So, some of the things you want to evaluate before you get started in a business. There's 5 different things you want to take a look at, right? And I think a lot of people that they jump head first before truly thinking about it is you want to take a look at the company model yourself. You want to make sure that the company you're aligning with, whether you're talking about getting a job, whether you're talking about buying a franchise, whether you're going to start your own business, you want to make sure that it's a rock solid business model, all right? You want to make sure that it has a true product or service, something that you can't just go anywhere and get. I do a lot of work in India. Every 6 months I'm over in India, and I'm dumbfounded that I live in Juhu. Does anybody know Mumbai at all? Nobody knows Mumbai. So I'm in Mumbai, I live in Juhu. So every day I drive down this street, and I kid you not, for a good 3 miles, there's nothing but shoes. For 3 miles, non-stop shoe stores. Not one store selling socks. I don't even get it. I'm like, why wouldn't that make sense? The need in your marketplace. You want to make sure that the product or service that you're offering, that there's a real need for what you're doing. Some places are really saturated. You know, when I resurrected the jazz record label because it was a brilliant idea, there's only a 1% market for jazz on the planet. Right? And I thought that if I tapped into that market, that I'd be very wealthy. It's not that funny. It's not a joke. That's what I thought. All right? The other thing you want to make sure that you evaluate is that are you being, because a lot of business owners don't really know how to price their product or service, but you want to make sure you're well compensated for whatever you're offering, right? That is worth your time and investment. And then the timing. You know, what my record label, when I resurrected it, we had a full warehouse of jazz records, like LPs. Would you agree that today might not be a good time to start selling vinyl records? That's what I did. So, like I said, I hit every pitfall that a business owner can possibly do in that time. The 5 biggest mistakes, a lot of people already understand this, is that we start either without the cash flow or the bandwidth to be able to even start a business. Right? And you've got to have, I recommend 100%, I've worked with hundreds of companies that are startup companies to helping them get through this process. But one of those things is having a legitimate business plan, right? Not just, you know, even my brother, he's like, oh, I've got it all in my head. Like, you can't walk into a bank or go talk to venture capitalists with something that's in your head. You've got to have a great, a business plan you've done a lot of research in. But you also want to make sure you have the bandwidth to do it. Because some people, they launch into either a part-time or full-time business, but they only have maybe 3 to 4 hours a week to dedicate to it. So if you don't have the bandwidth, it may be not the right time to pull the trigger. Not testing or surveying. Why don't you find out in your particular marketplace what is the actual need for your services? We did this in 2011, and we've continued to do it every single year. Even though our company's 46 years old, we wanted to find out what was the market for what we were doing. And we dedicated a lot of money to sending out those surveys. But I love, anybody use SurveyMonkey? 3, 4, 5 of you. I love SurveyMonkey because this allows you to put down a list of questions, send them out to your marketplace, and find out what is the need for what you're offering. And sometimes if you're trying to focus, I know we heard a couple of people talk about focusing on what their target market is maybe that SurveyMonkey will actually, I say SurveyMonkey because that's what I use, but maybe that survey will reveal exactly who your target market is for the product and service that you're offering. So I think that's incredible, and to do that. Picking clients. Has anybody picked a bad client? A handful of you? All right, the rest, everybody's a stellar entrepreneur, but you can have bad clients, right? These are individuals that because wouldn't you agree that in today, because of Yelp and Facebook and Google and all that such, if somebody leaves you a bad review, can't that be devastating if you're just starting a business? Absolutely. Now, if you have 1,000 great referrals on Yelp and one person says something bad, then it's no problem. But if you've got 2 reviews on Yelp and one of them's bad and the other one's good, they're going to think the other one came from your mom. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you pick your clients appropriately. Make sure that they understand the product or service that they're taking, and then you walk them through it. Make sure that they have a great customer experience. don't allow clients to participate in your product or service and demand more of you than what you were selling in the first place. And I think a lot of us do that and one of the things that we had talked about was not having a team. You know, whenever you're launching into your business, all of us try to wear all of the hats. I've been self-employed, one-man army for a lot of years and wore a lot of different hats. But you have to break it down. So now I've recognized having the sales and marketing team. I was meeting with my marketing director that specializes in working with those in the legal profession to advertise for themselves. So I meet with people that fill in the gaps that I can't do. You know, you have to have somebody that's helping you with your accounting. For years, I ran my own accounting. For years. And it took up so much of my time, and the best thing I ever did was just push that work off to somebody else, right? And the other thing is entrepreneurial poverty. One of the biggest mistakes we had is that we make investments into our business without tracking the return on that investment. And so a lot of us, I've done this countless times, where you think that you're doing something for the exposure. And so you overextend yourself of giving of your product or your service or your time. And we do it because we think that we're getting a lot of great exposure over it. But if you don't have a system to monitor your return on your investment, this is where entrepreneurial poverty goes. You know, I've seen people, and guilty myself, where you sponsor events that maybe you shouldn't have, right? You're like, well, I'm going to get my name out there. But folks, I can tell you time and time again where I've had big events that I sponsored, and there were no phone calls afterwards, right? I'm not going to say it, but there was a couple organizations. I ran an ad in a magazine for 2 years. It was $350 a month. And in 2 years, not one call from that ad. But guess who came back every year? They're like, Chris, you ready to continue the ad? You know, I've done this with other sponsoring groups. You know, where I sponsored an organization, and not once in over a year did I get one referral that came out of that organization, right? So why should I continue to sponsor? And we do it all the time, and that's what they're talking about with entrepreneurial poverty. So what I want to do here is that really is one of the things that I really love about the Great Minds concept, and that Jessica and I talked about, is the fact that we can all be resources for each other. And so I'd love to connect with you if there's anything that we can do in the community to help you. I know I love Shelly just got started her brand new podcast series, and so she invited me to be a guest on her podcast, and so I want to make sure that I share that. So if any of you that have an event that you're running, if you have a podcast that you're doing, if whatever, why don't you reach out to the community inside of Great Minds, and we don't mind sharing that. So I would encourage you to do that. So if we're not already connected, here's all of my contact information that you can hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, what are the other ones? Yeah, my email, my cell phone number. So with that, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time. I'll hand it back to you.